got unique checks in here. And this is the doctor that I actually want to process. So I'm going to go ahead. Before I go any further, does anybody have any questions? Do you understand where your files need to go and all that good stuff? And where they're coming from? Okay, kind of confusing. I'm going to go over it one more time just because I need to make sure you guys understand. When you're a billing service and you want to download reports, you're going to download them to your metadata folder. And then your RN data folder. And then your download folder. Okay? When you're an individual practice, you're going to do that. Metadata, RN data, and then you're going to select your particular practice, and you have a download folder here. Okay? And you're going to put them there individually. All right? Okay, so we're going to close out of that. Now, I've sent off my claims. They all went through really well. I'm now getting checks. So it shows me the date of the check. It shows me the file structure. It shows me a tracking number, all that good stuff. I can actually double click on this, and it's going to open up an area, and let me just minimize this. Let me go. I think this is a little bit bigger this way. Now, because it sees that it's an 835 file, it opens up to this screen right here. And this screen tells you this is the check information on the top, so it tells you what's coming in on the check. It actually recognizes and finds the patient, the date of service, the CPT code, and the dollar amount. It actually puts a checkbox right here saying that this check and this chart line is actually going to be posted because it found it just fine. Now, over to the right here, it's actually going to do a balance check. So it's saying this is what's coming on the check, and this is what's actually going to post to Medisoft. These numbers should be identical. The thing that should not be identical is probably your patient information. So you may want to uncheck that information. You don't really want to post patient responsibility. The system will actually know that it's patient responsibility just by you posting the charge and the adjustment. So this little button right here is a refresh button, and it tells you it will recalculate the totals if you go ahead and check that. So I'm going to check that. And so my patient responsibility I really don't want to post. I want that to be red. Okay? So anything, just like when you transmit your claims, anything with the checkbox is going to get transmitted. Just like your payments, anything with the checkbox here is actually going to get posted. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down here, and we're going to take off all these PR2s. Now, just like in your claim management screen, when you're overviewing your claims and you're checking things, I have column headings, right? I see these column headings. And just like everything else, I have this little filter button. So I can click on this filter button, and I can look at my unchecked boxes or my checked boxes. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually filter out just my PR2 stuff. So I could just click. Now, unlike revenue management, I can't highlight multiple ones. Oh, wait, maybe I can. And uncheck the box. But I can't. Didn't know I could do that. All the way down to the bottom. Check them. I'm going to remove my filter by hitting this little red X. And it takes me right back where I was. So I'm going to do this, and notice all my patient responsibility is not getting posted. Okay, so now, but my dollar amount, my paid amount, and my adjustment amount are matching penny to penny. If these are off 1 cent, it's going to actually come up red. So you need to really pay attention to what's being posted and what's going on. A lot of people are really struggling with takebacks and positive adjustments that are coming in through the check. sometimes you will need to do that manually just to make sure that it stays straight in your system. There are ways to post the take back, but it's kind of complicated, and I don't want to get into it in this class and confuse everyone. So if you need help with getting your take back posted correctly, please call our office and we'll go over that with you individually. So many times you'll have these checkboxes unchecked, and that's because it didn't know what to do as far as the payment code goes. So you can actually select the payment code, and this will look at your Medisoft for the payment codes that you use. And then once you select that, you can actually check this box. So these are the denial codes that are coming in, or the process codes that are coming in from the check. If I put my cursor over it, it tells me exactly what that means. Okay? And then you've got a payment code and an adjustment code. Once I see everything is actually okay, and one thing I'd also like to point out is that these, over here on the right, it's actually showing you that it was crossed over to the UMR insurance. So that information is actually coming up on the check. So if I want to look at this check before I actually post it, I have a print report up here, and I can print a report. I can do a detail, or I can do a summary in here. So when I click at the detail and I hit OK, it gives me a really comprehensive report, usually more comprehensive than office salary or clearinghouses can give you. So it gives you a detail. It actually shows you that it was processed as a primary and it was forwarded. At the end of the report, it will give you your denial codes and stuff like it would if you were a regular Medicare EOB. You also have closed totals at the bottom. Okay? So you can print that if you want. Don't really need to at this point. And then I'm going to actually hit the post button because all my numbers right here look good. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit the post button, and I'm going to hit OK. At this point, I could actually change the date of the check. I can say that it's an electronic check if I want. I can also adjust the deposit code if I'm using special deposit codes in my Medisoft program. And then once and it shows from Palmetto GBA, it's going to post this check to this doctor. Here's the check number, here's the dollar amount, and here's the date. So once I'm okay with all that information, I can actually hit OK. Now it's going through, it's putting the check in the deposit screen, it's opening up the individual patient, it's posting the payment, it's posting the allowed amount, it's posting the adjustment, it's marking the claim done, it's shifting the responsibility to the secondary or to the patient, who's ever next in line. Once it's done doing what it's doing, it's actually going to spit out a post report showing me what could be posted and what couldn't be posted. So I'm going to hit OK here. And now I've got line-by-line details showing me what was done. If I get to the end of this report, it shows me I was able to post every adjustment. I was able to post every payment. There is no unposted amount for the payment and adjustments that I did. However, my patient responsibility is all unposted, which is fine. I wanted it that way. I can actually print this if I want, but it's going to be a pretty lengthy report if your checks are pretty large. But it's also going to archive a copy of it for me. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. Everything looks good. I'm going to go back over to Medisoft, and I'm going to go to my deposit screen. I'm going to look at the 11th, which is what the check date was for. There's my Medicare check. It's a zero amount. It's been all applied. It even shows me it was an ERA insurance payment. If I click on my detail button, here's all the payments that it actually posted. Okay, I'm going to actually go over to the chart for that first patient. And here you see that all the payments were paid. So here's all the payments that were paid, the adjustments that were done. Here's the patient responsibility. And then if I go up here, there's my line item charge of my payment, my adjustment here. So this was all done manually. That $5,000 check would have taken you at least a couple hours to post, and it was just done in about 5 or 10 minutes. Okay? Any questions about posting?
This allows amount here. That automatically comes in there? Allows amount?
Yes, it does. Yes. It actually gets plugged in from the EOB itself because that allowed amount is on the EOB.
Yeah. But,
and then it gets plugged in the system and it stays in the system for that CPT code and that insurance. over here on your insurance list, if I go to Medicare, and I look at the allowed amounts tab, these are actually plugged in from the posting of a check. Now, obviously, these codes have never been billed to Medicare. That's why they don't have them there. But, or there was no payment that was received. So those actually get plugged in there. So if you need to adjust your allowed amounts, you can actually do it on the insurance tab. Okay? Any questions about posting? Everybody's crystal clear on that part? Okay. Once I'm done with that report, that was the only report that I had for this particular provider. Notice it disappeared. It's gone. It's clean. I don't have to worry about it. My text report, I don't really want those reports, so I can either go over to my RM data, metadata, my download folder, my report folder. I can delete out my text reports from there. I can also click on this report, and I can hit archive, and it'll actually archive the report for me and make it disappear. Now, if I've archived a report and I'm like, shoot, I wasn't done with that report, I need it to come back, I'm going to actually go to File, and I'm going to go to Archive. It's going to open up a different window, and I'm going to go to File, Open Folder. Here I've got acknowledgments, claims, downloads, remittance reports. I can go to Reports. It actually shows me all the reports that I have. If I wanted to go back into my report menu, I simply click on the report and I hit Extract File, and it will put it back into my major report, my reporting area, so I can view it. Okay, so that's how you get to your archive, and it stores it all for you. Okay.
How long will it be stored in there?
Forever. Until you
Forever.
Mm-hmm. Now, your archive folders are just like everything else that's in your RM data folder. So when I go to metadata and I go to RM data, I have an archive here. Here's my zip files that I brought in. There's my acknowledgement. There's my claims. These are all the files that I actually downloaded. And then you also have reports, remittance. These are all my EOBs. So if I don't click on any one of these, I can see them. I don't have to worry about me losing my EOBs. They're here in electronic file format. And this is the original EOB that came in. So this is not the posted one. This is the pre-post one. And I think it saves both, actually. Yeah. Here's the ones up here that have a funny name and kind of complicated, you can't really tell. You go by the date, but down here, here's a post report. And you probably match it up with the same date, and when I double click on the post report, this is the after report. So it archives the before and after both for you. Okay.
So this is new.
Now, you've got some. Many people have been using the claims piece and haven't really got into the ERA piece. I encourage you to really get into getting your EOBs electronically. Aetna announced this year that they were going to stop sending paper EOBs, and they had announced it before and kind of did it, but not really, and now they actually are. So they have stopped sending EOBs on paper. They're still sending you the check, but many of the EOBs are not coming anymore. You have to log into Aetna's website, and you have to actually download the EOB. Now, it doesn't matter where you get the ERA from. So if you want to download your ERAs directly from Aetna to your download folder, you can do that. Just make sure that it's an 835 file, because that's what the software reads, and that's what the software can post. So if you want to go to each one of your individual insurance companies and download 835 files from them directly, you could do that. But the smart way of doing it is having it go to your clearinghouse and then downloading the ERAs all from your clearinghouse in one swoop. Okay? Any questions about that area? Okay, you're all good.
So
all right,
only the 835 needs to be downloaded. Only this 835.
Correct. and it will say .835 after it, or in some way the insurance company will tell you it's an 835 file. But when you download the 835, many times when you download a zip file, they're going to give you an 835 and they're going to give you a text file inside, one that you can read yourself and one that the software reads. So if you're going to download ERAs directly from anyone, you want to make sure you're getting an 835 file, because the text file will not be able to be posted. It's only there for you to look at. An 835 file has to be an 835 file in order for it to be posted.
But the old way, before we were not doing this downloading, the 835 could be archived, isn't it?
The 835 is, yeah, it is being archived. Yes. Going forward or in the past?
In the past. Before.
In
the old way, we never do this downloading, but once we enter the 835, we put the deposit, everything, it's stored in the archive. That 835?
Yes, it is, Jordan. Yes, it is stored in the archive. But it's stored in a PDF file so that you can read it. So it actually takes that 835 and it converts it to a PDF, and it stores the PDF file. It doesn't store the 835. It gets rid of it. So if you remember, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think it does. Since I look at archives. See my remit? These are all PDFs. So when you put that 835 in the download folder, it unzipped it or converted it. It put the 835, the actual 835, in the revenue management report area. But once you posted it, it actually took it out of its 835 format and put it in a PDF format. Because if you just stored 835 files here, when you go to open them, you couldn't read them. They wouldn't make any sense to you. It looks like programming language. It looks like Greek. So what the software does for you is it gives you a copy of your EOB, but it gives it to you in a format you can read and print off and give to whoever you need to give it to. So, and then it also takes that file and it puts it in an easy print file. So these are actual files that that were posted, that when I import them into EasyPrint understands it. So just like Metasoft, it needs an 835 file, Medicare EasyPrint needs an 835 file to import. So when you actually import these files into EasyPrint can read it as well. So, and then you have that area to store your EOB. So some people are using both EasyPrint and ERA, revenue management. Okay, so does that answer your question, I think, Dr. Fernando? I'm not sure what your question was, I guess.
Yeah, the old way, once we post it, it disappears. The ERA, that 835 disappears, and I thought it's going to the archive. So, but they said that archive, we cannot read that. Just to get that archive, we cannot read it. That you're saying.
No. The archive you can read. The archive you can read. So if I go to archive here, and I go to remit, these are all readable. So if I double click, see how it's got this little PDF icon? So I open it, I can read it. Here's my original check. Okay? So if it was in an 835 format and you opened it, it wouldn't look like that. It would look like Greek. So you don't want it stored as an 835. You want it
to read it in the archive. Do we still have to do this downloading in this metadata?
It won't get to the archive unless you download it. Now, for you, you're a little bit different. You're using Relay Health. So all this stuff that happens with the folders happens on its own. You don't have to worry about putting it in.
Yeah, that's what I mean to know.
Okay. Now, if you ever want to see your archive folders, you just simply go to your report area, and it actually shows it.
It's archived. Right.
Yeah. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Now, you can get to your files directly, but you can always go to the reporting area and look at your archive files from there. So you don't have to worry about where the folders are in your archive. You just go to your report area and go to your archive area from that section. This is just where they're connected. So if you need to look them in a raw form, I need you guys to understand where your files are at. If you ever need to get to them, say your medicine your Medicare crashed that day, you still have the files that you can look at because these are on your network. So say your Medicare can't open, you need to understand where they're sitting so that if you need to get something, you can. So that's the only reason why we're going over this. Okay, but Relay Health clients and Medicare clients, that stuff gets moved automatically. And for your regular clearinghouses, the only intervention that you're doing is just getting the files to your download folder. The software is taking care of everything else for you. So it's moving them to the archive, it's converting them, it's doing all that stuff for you already. Okay? All right. Any other questions? Okay. Some other cool things that I want to go over with you with revenue management is I'm going to actually go up to activities, and I'm going to go into revenue management directly outside of claim management. So I can get to it from this area. I can also go directly into my revenue management report, so that area where I posted my check, I can get to it directly right here. I don't have to back out a claim in order to get my report menu to pop up. I can actually go to it directly. So let's open up revenue management. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go up here to, well, actually, let's go over secondary claims. So I'm going to actually select secondary, ready to send. And I've got these claims that are set to go electronically in my secondary method. And then my primaries are all done. So I simply hit send claims off to Ally. Going to scrub my second process, make sure my file structure is okay. It's pulling all the payment information into the actual claim file, so I do not have to print a paper EOB and send it. It does it all on its own. So I got all my green flags right here. And if you actually look at the raw file of the folder, this is what an 835 file kind of looks like, organized a little bit better. But it's really like a bunch of mumbo jumbo. Down here you can actually see the payment information is coming in. So this, I think, is an allowed amount. This is a payment amount, adjustment, stuff like that. So all that's coming in. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to actually send my secondary file the way I did before. Upload it. And that's it. I just sent my secondary claims. So those people that were doing Medicare Direct in the past, where you had to enter the dollar amount, you had to enter the codes, you had to go through the pain of having it rejected because they didn't match up perfectly. You had to print out the EOBs, you had to drop them to paper. You don't have to do that. So as long as your clearinghouse can take in secondary claims for that payer, as long as the payer can actually receive the secondary claims, you're able to send your secondaries very easy electronically. Does everybody get that part? Any questions about secondaries? Did half of you faint because you can't believe how easy it is? Okay.
I've got a lot of errors in the secondary because they said it's not, I think it's not posted, or the primary has to be posted. It's already posted.
Correct.
So still being denied.
So the primary payment was posted, and what error did you get on the secondary?
What's that? They want to know what was paid by the primary, something like a payment details.
Okay, was it Blue Cross or Blue Shield that sent you a letter saying we need the primary EOB?
Yeah, well, what happened is we just have to send it paper. I don't know. Well, I'm not sure the details, but a lot of my secondary are being rejected electronically. So maybe.
So are they being rejected electronically, or you're getting paper from the secondary saying they need more information?
The error about from the primary, the payment from the primary has to be posted or something. That's what I understand.
Okay.
It was already posted.
Okay, Dr. Fernando, call the office and get an appointment with me so that we can go over that and figure out what's going on, because that shouldn't be happening. your electronic process for your secondary should be going through smooth. We are getting some issues with Office Alley because they can't recognize coding that's coming in the file, but it's really a clearinghouse issue, not a Metasoft issue, because everything's coming over on the file. So get an appointment with me so that we can get that resolved. And if it's a software thing, then we can actually adjust the software. If it's a clearinghouse thing, then we'll talk to Relay and tell them what's going on so that they can fix it, because that should be a very smooth process. Okay? Good. All righty. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to open up my report. It's going to give me, there's my report. Show me what was transmitted. I can go ahead and close this. This is all because I just sent my secondary claim. I'm going to close this. Close that. Okay. And then close this. All right. So now when I open up my revenue management through just the activities here, still remembers what I had filtered before. I can change that at any time. Back to primary if I want. What I want to show you here, though, in the configure area, for the most part, you won't be touching that area. That area is actually touched and maintained by Disney Medical for the most part. It's kind of really dangerous to play in here in certain parts of the program. The implementation guide you really need to stay out of. Preferences, claim edit rules, you can actually see the settings in there and adjust them if you need to. Communications, you want to stay out of that area as well. That's the area that tells the software whether it's going to do a dial-up connection, an internet connection, and how it's going to function when you select that connection. So when you see that OA receiver, this is kind of where they're housed and how they know what to do. Your implementation guide is basically all the detail that goes behind your file, how they're going to be pulled, how they're going to be structured. And as you can see, this is like really confusing language. You go in here and you play around, you're going to do some serious damage to your program, and you want to stay out of there. So many times, like right now, we're having an issue with Availity Clearinghouse. Availity is saying that they're having some problems with the Aetna files, and it's actually coming from the software. So they're telling us that we need to adjust a certain part of the program that normally is never touched by anybody. So we would actually go in here for our Availity clients and we would adjust something. But we would not expect you guys to do that. We don't want you going in that area because you can really mess up your files. Okay, but the areas that you do want to play with are your insurance list, your insurance edit, your claim edit, stuff like that. So those areas you actually do want to get involved with. In the configure and the insurance area, you can go to your insurance list. And in your insurance list, it opens up all your insurances and all the fields that you have in your insurance carrier. It opens it up into one screen. So if I have settings that are not correct, so say I've got my patient signature on file and I can see that some are set to leave blank, I can actually highlight all of these and I can change them all at once. And then it'll actually update Metasoft for me. If I need to adjust my procedure code set, my diagnosis code set, stuff like that. My crossover claim box, I don't want that checked for any of my clients or any of my patients. So I'm going to highlight the first one. Actually, let's get back over here. Go all the way up to the top. I'm going to highlight the first one. Go down to the bottom one. I'm going to hold my shift key down. Click on the bottom and I'm going to uncheck this box, and it would uncheck it for everyone. Okay?
When do we have to uncheck the crossover? What is that for?
The purpose for you guys not checking that crossover claim box is, and in the there's two places that crossover box actually comes into play. Under Policy 2, there's a crossover claim box that you check. You check that only when it's a not an automatic crossover. So for the most part, you don't want the secondary information going with your claim because Medicare is actually getting those eligibility files directly from the insurance companies like Blue Cross and Blue Shield. So when they finish processing that claim, they bounce it up against Medicare's eligibility file directly, and they send it over to Blue Cross and have it processed. If you send that secondary secondary information with your primary claim, you botched that process because now they have two secondaries that they don't know what to do with. And so in the old days, and I don't know how prevalent it is now, it may actually get better with the 50-10 conversion, they didn't know what to do with it, so they kicked it out. And so it never got sent to the secondary. So, and they would send you that nasty letter saying that, hey, your claim wasn't able to be crossed over. And before, they wouldn't even send you a letter. They wouldn't even notify you. So you kind of want to keep that secondary claim information off the batches so that when Medicare sends it on through, it goes through smoothly. Now, if that payer is not on the automatic crossover list, which very few are not on the automatic crossover list, maybe it's a mom-and-pop insurance company in Nebraska, and that is not an automatic crossover insurance company with Medicare. So Medicare does not automatically send that information over to the secondary, and they don't get a file from that insurance. That's when you want to check crossover claims, because that's when you want the secondary information to go onto the claim file. And I don't think that Medicare does anything with it. I think you actually have to send it yourself. Now, this one, if you, on the insurance list, that crossover box claim, if you check this box, then what happens is in claim management, it automatically puts the claim in a sent status for secondary. Because actually, when you send to Medicare, you send to secondary at the same time. But it doesn't give you any control over your secondary claim. It actually puts everything in a sent status when typically you may not want it to go into a sent status, because if you didn't physically get a payment for it, you want it to be in a ready to send, and you want to actually send your secondary yourself. So this box right here will actually change the status in claim management from ready to send at the same time that it changes the primary to send. So you may want to control that better. If you want it to happen that way, then you want your crossover box to be checked. But that's really a preference by your practice. You guys decide how you want that to go. Okay? So along with all these, I can actually scroll over to the right. And the biggest picture that you actually want to adjust is I want all my insurances for my primary and my secondary, I want them to all be OA. So I'm going to hit OA and I'm going to hit tab, and it actually just updated the primary insurance for, or the EDI receiver for all my insurances to my current receiver that I'm using. So I'm going to go up here again, I'm going to highlight the first one, scroll all the way down to the bottom, highlight the bottom one, and I'm going to do the same thing for my secondary. And it just populated everything. I can actually sort my primary EDI receiver, and here I see I've got an EDI receiver for this client, but I don't have it plugged in for my secondary. So when I start to plug in my payer ID, that's one thing that you guys are not used to doing or not used to dealing with, their payer IDs if you're working with your regular clearinghouses. Anytime you're sending an electronic claim, you want that insurance to have an appropriate payer ID that is specific to that clearinghouse. Because the payer ID for Blue Cross's Office Alley will be different than the payer ID for Blue Cross's Availity or Gateway or anyone, or Relay Health for that matter. So you want to go to your clearinghouse, and each clearinghouse will have a payer ID list. You want to pull up your insurance company, figure out what that payer ID is for that insurance, and you want to plug that ID in for both your primary and your secondary EDI receiver. And if I put my cursor up here, it should actually tell me, and I think it's not telling me because it's highlighted. It'll tell me that this is the secondary payer ID. So, oh no, look what it just did. Because I typed in 21132, it actually changed my primary receiver for all of my insurance. I'm going to close out of here. I'm not going to save the changes. And then I'm going to go back in. Because I didn't save the changes, here we go. It didn't mess up my file. Only when I hit save here does it actually go back over to Medisoft and update Medisoft. So I can see right here that I've got sending. So here I've got a primary insurance, but I don't have the secondary payer ID. So I'm actually going to plug that in right here. Your primary payer ID and your secondary payer ID are going to be the same number. You want it populated in both places so that when you go to send your secondary claims, you're not getting payer ID invalid or missing errors. Okay? So if you're getting that, it's because these fields are missing. Does everybody understand that about the payer ID?
Yeah, some other questions.
And where to go to update it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to update it.
Somebody tell them to come
She can hear it. You have to put the same.
Yeah, but she doesn't know that we can hear.
Say that again, Dr. Fernando.
If there's no secondary insurance, you have to put the same payer ID to the secondary.
No, if there's no secondary insurance, you don't need, because this is connected to the actual insurance. It's not connected to the patient. So the only time that it gets connected to the patient is when you load secondary insurance for that patient.
And then give him slides for school for compliance.
But you're saying the same number to the secondary with the one that you were doing earlier. You were putting the same.
Because
Shauna,
that insurance, it could be primary or secondary.
Shauna, I'm sorry, but there's somebody with the phone open. They don't have mute, and we cannot hear anything.
Doctor, can you put your phone on mute? Hello? Okay, I think you did. Because that, you don't have to create two different insurances. Like, you don't have to do a Medicare primary and a Medicare secondary. You can do one Medicare. The payer ID is the same for both, whether it be primary or secondary, for that particular clearinghouse or that particular Medicare. So, and that insurance would get loaded as a primary insurance for patient A and a secondary insurance for patient B. But system's going to know what EDI receiver and EDI payer to look at when you go to batch out the claim. So that's why it's important that you put both the ID number on the primary and the secondary EDI receiver code.
And then he do on Monday.
They are just not paying attention.
Somebody is not having their phone on mute, and we can hear the conversation that's going on in your office. Dr. Shazbat? Hello? Dr. Shazabata? Who is in the doctor's office? Hello? Yeah?
They're gone.
Okay. Are you from Dr. Shazabat's office?
No, this is Marge from Dr. Bennett.
Okay. You know, you're fine. You're on mute. Somebody else is not on mute, and we can hear the conversations that are going on. I think it's Dr. Shazwaza. I can't pronounce his name right. Shahid Zada. Okay. I need him to put his phone on mute. Or it's Patty. Patty, is your phone on mute?
It's not me. I'm on the revenue.
Patty's on mute. Okay. All right. I think he finally did it. All right. So, did everybody understand that about the payer ID? Okay. So your payer ID is going to be the same. The ID is specific to that insurance company, so it doesn't really matter if it's primary or secondary. So you want to make sure that you put it on both, because that one insurance could be a primary insurance for one person and a secondary insurance for somebody else. Okay? All right. So that's how you update your insurances, and that's where you do it in one area. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit save. And just like in all your other parts of revenue management, I still have a filter. So if I want to only filter out my electronic claims and really look at what's going on, I can actually get things corrected. I can also insert classes to the insurance if I need to, and adjust things as I need to adjust them. Okay? Any questions about that area?
Those people.
Okay.
Muted.
Okay. I actually just muted everyone's phone so we can can stop having that problem. I'll unmute the phones when I open it up for questions, so I can't hear what you're saying. If you do need to get my attention, you have a chat box in the bottom. You can always go ahead and just type a little question in the chat box. Okay? So if anyone can't hear me, please let me know. Just giving me an instant message real quick. Okay. All right. So that's your insurance list, so you can actually update things from there. You can go ahead and hit save here. Your select button can actually show you active, inactive, or a particular type of insurance as well, if you want to select them that way. Okay. You also have a type filter here that you can use as that filter. You also have a report area where you can just print out a report. And it's basically just printing out the grid for you. Okay? Not really pretty. All right, so that's your insurance information. I'm going to hit save and cancel. Also under your insurance is your assigned edits. When we actually turn on your edits, we actually turn them on for all insurances. So if you are getting Medicare CCI edits and local coverage policy edits for your non-Medicare insurances, you might want to turn that off. So, but we turn it on for everybody because everyone pretty much goes by Medicare guidelines. There are some insurance that tweak things for certain services. So I can also see right here that I have no receiver. Notice I can't touch the receiver information. That's actually going to be in your insurance list, but I can see what's missing. If I want to actually turn off my insurance edits for Medicare for AARP, I can actually just uncheck the box and it will no longer scrub that insurance for that Medicare edit. If you're getting denials because the CPT codes that you're using are newer and the software doesn't recognize it, you can actually turn off your check CPT area right here and you'll no longer get those edit errors. Same thing with your diagnosis codes and global periods. CCI edits or comprehensive code edits for Medicare, you can actually turn those off. And your common edits are the data entry errors, your policy missing ID number, stuff like that. Those are those common edits that you can actually turn off. I would never recommend turning off the common edits. Those should actually stay in place. Okay? And then you make adjustments. Once you make adjustments, you're going to hit save and get out of this area. The other areas that you might want to play in are your preferences area. And in your preferences, this is where you can auto log off of revenue management. You can create billing notes and tag that information for your claims, meaning that if you want to actually put a comment in every patient's claim, every patient's case, or every patient's account saying that a claim was transmitted, you can actually use the billing notes for that. If I wanted my revenue management when I opened it or when I hit print send, if I wanted it to just automatically check my claims, I could actually check this box and you won't get that luxury of it checking, of you having to check the claims manually. It would auto check them for you. Okay? So you can check that box. Revenue management tab. Thank you. This is the area where I tell the software to actually use a common report folder for your downloads. So if you're a billing service, you want this box checked, and you want to be able to only have to go to one download folder to download all your reports for all your practices. If you're not a billing service, you probably don't have this checked. And then for your easy print area, we actually navigate to that folder, and we have your easy print files go in there as a copy. Now, remember when I talked about, we're going to go over to remit posting really quick, and then I'll go back to archive options. We talked about when my claim is denied, it's going to go to rejected status. If I want it to go to a different kind of status, maybe a challenge status, because that's a little more clear about why it was denied, I can actually change it to challenge if I want. But these triggers are what actually trigger the software to tag it as rejected when you get a denial. You also have other areas that you can actually turn on and turn off. Most of the settings are already set. We don't really touch the remit posting options. The ones that come as a default are pretty good. Now, your archive options. I've actually got my software, or this particular practice, to actually archive things immediately. So when I actually open my report, I don't ever want to see my 277s or my 271s. I want it to actually let me archive. I want it to archive on its own. I don't ever look at those reports, so I've actually changed them to immediate. My 835 reports, I've got them tagged to never archive automatically or archive after. And this is when the revenue management program opens, it automatically archives stuff. I don't want it to do that for my 835s. I want my 835s to actually be seen. Okay? So you can actually change just by clicking in this box how often you want those to happen. Okay? And there's all kinds of different kinds of reports, and you can decide which ones you want. Now, Relay Health clients, one of the biggest problems you have is that Relay Health inundates you with reports, hundreds and hundreds of reports. Most of the time you need your XJ report or your CA report. You know what those reports are, and you actually tag them, and you give those are the ones that you want to see immediately. Availity actually gives you an ABR report. So you see that these are availability reports. So you can actually choose them to be archived immediately, or they can actually, you can tell them to archive after 7 days or something like that. Okay? So those are your archive options. Your claims editor area is a wizard that we send you through, that we configure for you, and it's configured to your specific Medicare for your state, and then the services that you provide. You can always go through this wizard at any point, so when we actually configured you, many of you were on the phone when we did it, and you saw the services that we selected for you and all that good stuff. If you ever need to adjust that information, you can simply just go through the wizard again. You do have a category in here for remittance codes and status codes. And because you're getting 835 files from your insurances, your clearinghouses, they all use the same file structure codes. So that's what makes an 835 great, because they all have to use the same denial and adjustment codes that come on all checks. So this is just an area where you can review to see what those codes mean, as well as your status codes down here. So you can see those. And it's just a reference. Now, I'm getting this error message because I've actually got it set on my remit posting options. I got it set here to use these codes. If I want to have the software use the codes that I've given it for my practice, then I actually come down here, and during your configuration process, down on number 45, we actually plug in your adjustment code to match up with whatever insurance adjustment code you actually use. Okay? So, and you just click in the box, and it has a drop down of all the codes that you have in your Metasoft, and you get to select the one that you want. This is mostly configured for you when we do the configuration. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute the lines and open it up for any questions.
Unmuted.
Does anybody have any questions about the configuration area in this section? Nope. Okay.
Muted.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close this. Over here on this section on the right, where it says global settings, do not ever touch that area unless someone instructs you to do so. That number actually goes out on your files, and it can cause your files to actually kick the entire batch back. And it tells you, don't change this unless someone from Metasoft directs you to change it. So that global setting you need to leave alone. And for certain Medicare clients, we actually do adjust that number. But I need you to leave it alone if you don't need to touch it. Okay? All right. I'm going to go ahead and close this. Back into revenue management, make sure we covered everything. Your claim edit rules is the last thing that we need to discuss. So anything below that is something that you really don't touch and you really don't get into. So your claim edit rules is an area where you can actually develop special edits for your software. So these are the common edits that occur. So these are what happens when your claims are getting scrubbed. You can actually get pretty sophisticated if you want for your like the surgical codes that are expanded. It's actually looking at global modifiers for these things between these codes. As the generic setup, I think it goes to like code 6,999. So you may be getting multiple procedure code edit rules on things like this one, the 17,000 code, that maybe have more than one unit. You can actually go in and adjust this stuff. So if I want to add a rule or add a grouping or adjust something, I can actually adjust it here. So if I click on the rule on the left, I see what the rule is looking at and what it's scrubbing for. I can also see that it's going to flag as an error and what the error message is going to tell me. So if I have a required date of birth and I want it to be a warning message or just a message and not an error, I can actually change that. And I can even change what the message is that it gives to a person when they actually get the error. So if I'm going to say the missing patient date of birth, I can literally tell the user exactly where to find that. So okay, and whatever I put right there is what's going to pop up on the message on the report that they do. Okay? I can also set something as a warning or an error. So if this is actually going to be an error for me because I care that it's actually going out correctly, I can adjust that if I want. I can hit add rule here, and I can add my own rule. And then once I add a rule, I get a blank spot. Now over here, I'm going to add a grouping, and then I would add a condition inside the grouping. So if I hit add group, it's going to start off saying, what do you want to do? It's going to start off in brackets kind of thing. And then on this section right here, I'm going to say where I want it to look, what I want it to do, and what the detail is going to be. So if I click here, over here on the right, I have all the fields and all the areas that the data comes from inside Metasoft. So if I'm looking at a particular claim, I'm going to go somewhere on the claim. If I'm looking at a particular patient and I'm looking at something on the case, I'm actually going to go to the case area and pull up that field. So if I want to make sure that my crossover claim box is not checked, or if I want to make sure that my patient statement is checked for some reason, I can actually create whatever I want or whatever rules I want. And I'm simply going to click on that field and I'm going to drag it to this area. And then I'm going to say if the patient chart number is not equal to whatever number I want it to be, or if it's not greater than, less than, so you have all these operators that you could possibly use. And I want the criteria to be what I want it to look for here, and then I'm going to add a condition, and I want it to do something else, and I want it to do something else, I can do that. Okay? Okay, so those, and then, and you can add, so if I say, if I want this chart number, if I want a chart number, I want to look at my data, and if the chart number is equivalent to this, and I want it to be where the insurance carrier is equivalent to something else, let's do something that's really makes sense. So if I do this, and I want to say that my claim my insurance carrier 1 is equal to MED 00, because my insurance carrier 1 is actually my insurance code, and on my case screen, my group number 1 is not equal to none. Actually remove this. Then I want it to give me a warning stating Medicare group is not showing none. condition by hitting this compile button at the top. And it tells me that my rule makes sense, it understands what it needs to do, and it knows what to spit out when it actually finds that condition. And then I can hit OK. Now I'm going to give my rule a name. Because really what that none box does is it's a Medicare primary indicator. It tells Medicare that they're the primary payer, nobody pays before they do, they need to process the claim. So that's what this actually is for. Okay? And I can come back here and I can see it. Okay? If I want to delete this rule, because I don't really want it in my system, I can hit the delete rule, and it goes away. Okay? All right, I'm going to open up the phone lines for any questions.
Unmuted.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions? That's pretty much all that we needed to go over today. If you have any questions about anything that we covered or any revenue management questions, go ahead and shoot. Before it went into version 16, so it may look a little bit different. But the videos can be found under your C drive. Under Program Files, Metasoft, Bin.
Did you say
RCM?
Okay.
Yeah, Bin. It's coming up right here. RCM, and I think it's under Autoplay and Videos. Okay, so this path right here, and that would be on any computer where Metasoft was installed. And so you have all these little individual videos, but I warn you that many of them are outdated. These videos are literally, I think, 2 years old. So you could, if you want to watch them, that's fine, but take it with a grain of salt because there may be some changes that have occurred. Okay? And then we have a video that we did less than 6 months ago covering revenue management. We are actually going to redo that video. I was the one that did the video, and I forgot to tell you in the video where your claim files are to upload, which is kind of a fake piece. So we need to redo the video and include that.
How soon are you doing those?
As soon as I have time. The 5010 stuff has really got me going. I've literally been getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning for the last 3 weeks trying to help clients all across the United States. And I've not stopped. My day doesn't end until about 7, lately 10 o'clock. But I've been getting done anytime between 7 and 10 o'clock at night. So as soon as my day stops being like that, I will probably get the video done. Okay. Trina is actually a new trainer for JB Medical. She's working with many of you to get your revenue management configured. She is doing an amazing job in a very short period of time. So, Trina's actually taking place where I don't have to do it. She's not as seasoned as she will be in ANSI errors. So if you're having some kind of rejection and they're telling you this loop and segment is incorrect, that will probably be something that I'm dealing with. But she's getting very good at configuring the software, and eventually she will be up to speed with the ANSI errors. So, yay, Trina! She's doing a good job, and she's giving me a little more sanity.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? So you guys are all deemed revenue management professional, educated staff. So when I need somebody to understand revenue management, I'm going to be calling them, and you're going to train them. Okay?
Huh.
All right. So everybody understands. You're on this. You're going to be running through your revenue management like a pro. Please understand that if you have problems with revenue management, by all means, give us a call. We do have many answers on our webpage. So under seemorepatients.com, we have a Medi Answers link where you can actually shoot us the question. It goes to our training and support staff, and we'll be able to answer that for you. As well as we have the support at jbmms.com. You can email us directly, and we will get back to you as soon as we possibly can with any questions that you have. Good luck. Thank you guys for joining our class today. We really